I come from India, but I live in Finland now.
Welcome.
Last summer, when I came from India to Finland, I thought I would be coming for maybe 1 month. Came with 1 month's visa to tide over a situation which was very seriously coming up in India, about which I will be speaking later. But it eventually turned that I would live much longer in Finland. So it has become my second home in a way. I've been traveling all around, and last weeks I've been in Norway, and before that I've been in different parts of Europe. But tomorrow I'll be going to London to take the message of freedom of thought, freedom of expression, humanism, skeptical thinking, and all that we cherish as values of modern civilization. India, as it is known for many people, it's a land of several exotic things. Flying fakirs, maybe starving saints, snake charmers. A lot of images of India are very, very popular. But there is another India, which is very, very different. For example, India is one of the biggest centers of information technology now. One good example is that we have 1.2 billion population, and maybe perhaps all adults above 15 years, perhaps a very few people left apart, would have a mobile phone. And the most popular mobile phone is Nokia. I always thought before last time coming to Finland, because I was not very much interested in the companies behind this thing, but Nokia looked like, the name by name, it looked like a Japanese name. But then I thought it could be just an Indian company because it's so popular in India. Most of the people in India think that Nokia is an Indian company. It's so popular. Unbelievably popular than even in Finland. So we have information technology centers in different parts of India, like in Bangalore. So many international companies now outsource their work to India and operate from India because telecommunication is very cheap, and comparatively the workforce is lesser of expense. So this is an information technology center in Bangalore. This is one in Hyderabad, and how should I communicate? This is in Hyderabad, and we have very effective and powerful satellite communication system. Originally meant for countering the perceived enmity with Pakistan as the neighbor, with a lot of missiles in our idea, but later this has been used for communication inside the country. Telephone and television has reached everywhere, and we have our own satellites, our own rocket launching for special places for that thing. But the most interesting thing which I've always been wondering was, when we launch a satellite, the Space Research Institute's chief would go 2 days before that with a replica of that thing to the biggest temple nearby to place it for a prayer. Or, many times it was in the news that the satellites are launched. The time is decided in consultation with the astrologers. Or even further, there is a popular belief amongst Hindus that when anything special is done, you have to break a coconut with a mantra to please the elephant-faced god who would take away all the obstacles. So imagine when we send a satellite to space, some of the scientists would decide to break a coconut so that the obstacles are removed. That's the kind of two parallel worlds that exist in there. This is a satellite launch center. So the technological advancement in India is very fast, very effective, but it coexists with a lot of medieval belief system. But parallel, this is a scene from Bihar, 2 years back. Katiyar is a district headquarters, and standing on this little baby is a holy man. The people there believe that if the holy man stands on the children like this and chants a mantra, he would rather scream it. The baby also would be screaming out of extreme pressure of the weight, but would not die or break the bones because children's bones are very flexible. And this cruel act happens in the name of faith. Not because, why they do it? Because the parents believe that if the children are brought to this holy man and he stands on them, they would be immunized against all ailments. When this happened in Katiyar, one would first think maybe the people do not have medical facilities. They go to a lot of superstitions. But it's not like that. First, when this act was seen, to stop this, we tried to meet the local authorities. They said, no, it's a matter of faith. We cannot touch it. Then we went to televisions and started a discussion on it. This was a live television program. See, on the right side is me, on the left hand side is the anchor. And live reporting was done. And during the television program, which was a 1-hour television program, imagine, and the minister of the Bihar state in charge of health was telephoned in the live program. And he responds, no, I cannot interfere. Because it's a tradition and faith. It continues. Then we telephoned the parliament member from this place. He also says that he cannot touch it because it's a long tradition and faith. Anything in India is tolerated the moment it is linked with faith or religion. Here is the medical college in the same district, 2 kilometers away from the scene of this cruel incident. At this medical college, immunization is given to every child free of cost. Nationally, there's a policy that immunization is absolutely free of cost, and people are communicated, health representatives go to their home in locating children, and it's given free of cost. But still people believe in these kind of solutions for immunization. But in other places, still strange things happen in India. On the other side, highly developed, producing software engineers is India. Here is this Karnataka. Oil is boiled, and the babies are just dipped and taken up. But they don't get hurt, though it will be very hot for them. And it is believed that they don't get hurt because it's a religious ceremony, and there is a lot of power in the whole process. But the reason is very simple. They put a lot of lemon into this butter before it is boiling, and when the lemon water is there, the boiling point of lime water is much lesser, and it bubbles up and gives an impression that it is very hot before the oil actually gets boiled. So the children are still deep into that, thinking that it's really hot boiling oil or butter, but they really get a little hurt, and the trauma is very hard. And again, this is done for the welfare of the child, so that the gods bless the child. Another place. These kind of things, this is reported in Fox News, you can see at the bottom, and it's all around the world. It was shown in a mosque and in a temple in Maharashtra. Children are brought to be thrown down. Nearly 50 meters, in another place it's 150 meters up. The child is just caught like this and dropped down. But of course, they would be caught in a bed sheet down, which 4 people are holding from both sides. Why it is done? Because the gods will be happy. They want it to be like that. We tried quite a lot to stop this brutal ritual. And some of our representatives have gone to a court of law to complain to police stations. No. It's a long tradition. And 2 years back when we tried, we were told, no, so far, no child is hurt. There is no reason that we should be stopping it. But last year, one of the persons who was holding this bedsheet for that the child is caught lost the grip. The child has straight away fallen down with head breaking and dying. But will parents stop going there next year? We thought that would have a great impact in their mindset. No. Next year there will be more children brought with their parents. And no authority want to stop this thing. Because everybody thinks that it's a matter of faith. And faith is a holy cow in India. We cannot touch it. Anything that you connect with faith, or anything that you connect with Indian nationalism, it immediately becomes untouchable. You cannot, untouchable in the sense not in the caste structure, but you cannot touch it. It's very important. It has a kind of aura around it. Therefore, astrology or so many ancient belief systems are connected carefully by the practitioners to the faith. If you criticize astrology, one of the first responses would be coming as, you are criticizing my religion. So any kind of thing that we would like to stop are all linked with some kind of faith. So that is why we need a situation in India which is very important, that faith should be able to be criticized, and in fact it's allowed. We have a constitution which guarantees free speech and free expression. Of course, belief, faith, worship, everything is guaranteed. It's a very civilized constitution, but little progressive also. As fundamental rights, we are guaranteed almost anything that we know as human rights. On the other side, we have fundamental duties. One of the fundamental duties is to promote scientific temper, to develop critical inquiry, spirit of reform, and humanism. Imagine, that's in the constitution told to us as our fundamental duty. So a person like me, for example, when campaign against superstitions in India, what I am doing is, my fundamental duty, which is marked in the constitution. And whatever I do is guaranteed to be protected, because it's guaranteed by my free speech. Therefore, we try to keep on educating people, telling people that such superstition should go, and there should be public awareness. Sometimes it works, sometimes it takes a long time to correct it. What we do is not just campaign. We just have a lot of public outreach programs, especially reaching out young boys and girls. India has a large population, as you know, 1.2 billion people. But the average age of an Indian is 22 years. Because the population growth is so fast, over the last 50 years we have doubled it. And we must still be going, not only the population growth, but the rate of the growth also is growing. So the rate of growth will stop in 2020, but still the growth will be further up. By 2050 only we expect that it stands somewhere stable and starts coming down. Meantime, we may have another 1 billion people having birth in India. So our main issue now is how to reach the real Indian. So when the average age of Indian population is 22 years, and when after next maybe 10 years it will be something like 18, we thought to reach out to India we have to reach the young people. Therefore we have a lot of campaigns reaching out to universities and colleges. This is a school where the Science and Technology Ministry of India cooperates with the school authorities and us to organize Inspire Science Camps to provoke children to think critically. And one of the special program in the science camp is a special class which I would take, namely the Science Behind Miracles. These are the kind of students who are watching, and another group of students in one camp. This was the last school camp which I have attended in last April in India. Our operations are done from this house. This is known as the Rationalist Center in New Delhi. This is where we publish books, reach out to people. We make a internet-based news bulletin which appears in several languages, including Finnish language, Suomi. And I should introduce also Timo, who translates the Finnish edition into, for you. And anybody who wants to get a copy of it, it's free of cost. Just go to our website and click, and they would get it regularly. Or rationalist-news.net. You can click and you can get the bulletin that goes in English, French, German, Spanish, and a lot of languages, which includes Finnish. And we have a lot of visitors there. This is Paul Kurtz, a very famous American secular humanist who died last year. And they all used to visit the Rationalist Center, and where we have regular meetings going on. And Paul Kurtz, of course, attended one of our international conferences in 2000, and he was given the International Rationalist Award that year. We publish a lot of books. These are books on critical studies on Indian holy texts like Bhagavad Gita, or Quran, or Upanishads, or even on Christianity. And so many, Darwin's Origin of Species, reproduced in India, a lot of books. We have nearly 3,000 titles published in several Indian languages. But this campaign is against a situation that is unbelievable. This is a temple where the faithful find things so strange and divine. Here the believers are walking over fire emblems with naked feet. Such things happen in almost all temples to show that the gods are powerful. Yes, really, it looks very powerful because they remove their shoes and chant some mantras and just walk over the fire. It's impressive. You would be completely shocked seeing that thing. But on the other side, what we counter is very simple. We would tell people that this does not need any miraculous powers. Anybody can do that thing. But just by saying is not sufficient in India. We have to show it. So what we do is, we go to villages, we make big campaigns, and then we make our own fire, and our own fire emblems are there. Then we say that there is no requirement to have any miraculous powers or divine support. You can just walk over the fire, and we show how it is done. Because when you walk over the fire, the feet is not in contact with the fire emblems for sufficient time to communicate the heat to your leg. You can keep on walking. The only thing that you should not do is not to stop and look back. Then there will be sufficient time to get the fire on your feet. So we show it. But such things are in a long process of education. We have thousands of people who could now really walk over the fire without any divine help. But sometimes very strange superstitions come over India at a very large scale. This was in this particular miracle. This was in 1994, September 24, I remember it exactly. Because that day is marked as the day of the largest performed miracle in the world. Because on that day, the Ganesh statues, Ganesh is an Indian god with elephant face and human body. And the statues of Ganesh started drinking milk. The statues. I heard this and gone with some television people who already were there to see me to the local temple. It was a long queue of half a kilometer or something like that, and people were with milk in bottles or in little jars. And when they came near to the statue, they would take it in a spoon and feed to the face of the goat. The deity, the moment it touches the mouth of this statue, it simply disappears. Next moment, it's not there in the spoon. It happens everywhere with everybody and all over the country. Millions and millions and millions of statues, because almost every Hindu house has a statue of Ganesh. Everybody tried this thing. Everywhere it worked. A miracle that is amazing. I mean, which worked everywhere with everybody, with every temple. And newspapers made special afternoon editions telling that India go frenzy with the new miracle. And milk went completely out of stock. Unbelievable feat. We could not understand what was happening. But when I went to the temple, I found one small thing. The floor is completely wet with a lot of milk. That's a very special thing I noticed. Back at our office, the televisions were asking our comment. We didn't have an immediate answer. And we closed the door and our miracle explaining team started working. So we tried with another statue. I've been a great admirer of our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, because he was a person with scientific approach. He has been responsible for many progressive changes in India, and a very rationalistic person. So I used to have a bust of him, a small plaster of Paris bust of him on my shelf. I thought maybe what would happen to Nehru if we feed something to him. So I took Nehru on a small plate and thought probably Nehru was very famous liking coffee. I don't know whether he drank milk every day, but coffee he was drinking. He poured some coffee over his head and in a spoon gave a little coffee to Nehru. To my surprise, Nehru drank coffee. The spoonful of coffee just vanished, as if he just drank it. But then we thought of a very strange thing. You know about Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation of India. He would not drink alcohol, he would not eat meat or fish. Only once he tried little meat when he was a student, as a barrister student in London. And that night he could not sleep because he felt that the gorge is crying from his stomach and he stopped eating meat. And such a person, if he gives some beer to him, how would it do? We got a small statue of Gandhi and did the same process, but this time we tried with a little beer. And yes, Gandhi's statue drank beer. So then we are very clear what was happening. Any statue, perhaps, anywhere in the world, if fed with some liquid, we drink it. The process is very simple, we identified. Because the statue is wet first, something is poured over it. Then when the liquid which is brought to the mouth of the statue, it touches the wet particle on the statue, and this becomes one unit. Then you are thinking that you are feeding it. So you tilt your hands a little bit. Then the siphoning begins and it simply drains over the body. In small quantities, when it goes over a white marble statue of Ganesh, you don't see it. Very simple like that. And then we went, where would this milk be going? We went to the temple again and found that the drainage was simply full of milk and it was going. It was all falling through the body and going down, and it was going to the drainage. Nobody wanted to see that thing. So it was all covered with a lot of flowers, and milk just vanished because it got through the body. And there is a psychomotor moment. Because when you feed a child, normally, without you noticing, you tilt your hand. The moment you think that the statue is drinking, you tilt and tilt your hand, and it becomes very, very easy. In 2 seconds, 3 seconds, milk would vanish with the spoon, because the quantity of milk in the spoon is too less. Then we decided to go public with this information. So we tried with the Ganesh statue. First with milk, you don't see it. Then we colored the milk with the pigments. Red color and blue color. So then you could see where exactly it's going on the statue. It was just going. Ganesh has a very sumptuous body. He eats quite a lot as per the belief, and a huge, tusk and all this elephant face and sitting position normally, and you don't really see it. It goes over the structures. But we could show it so properly. In the evening, we have been in television, the national television, and explaining how the statue was drinking milk. With color pigmented milk and with normal milk, and even with a small brick we have shown, it will also drink milk. Everything we have shown properly, and it was very successful, I should say. In one evening, the greatest miracle, we just stopped. Next morning, no Ganesh statue was drinking milk, because people understood it. So it was, now some people still say that, but on that special day there was a special position of all these stars. Perhaps on that day it drank. But later we found that we have shown it in hundreds of cages that any day any statue would drink milk. One can try with any statue. That is one time we realized that a miracle can completely make the whole people in the country crazy. And equally we realized that if effective, we can just stop it that easy. And we have, as I have told you, we have a lot of outreach programs. One is reaching out to people, but not only in schools and colleges, but strictly in the villages. We have 80% of the Indian population living in villages, in rural areas. And the life standards of people living in the cities and in the rural areas are very different. Though, of course, the old times of India having poverty and lack of food is over completely, the general facilities available to people are much different in the rural and urban areas. But we go to the rural areas. In 1995, for example, I've led a campaign which covered 1,000 villages in India, 18 months on roads, with some 20 people or 18 people with me. And we went to villages and villages and tried to understand the local belief and faith and superstition and explain them, not only by words, but replicating them, how it is done. And this is now continued by a lot of people. And here you see is me in a village last year, and here are little children who are given a special tablet of holy ash, which a very famous holy man in India uses to produce magical powers. He moves his hand like this, and there will be some ash, and that is given to people, telling that he's God. He is a very powerful person at that time, and we have been educating children everywhere to produce holy ash, and also gave them kits to go and do back at their home. But superstitions of different phases in India. This is a special creature that attacked people in Uttar Pradesh street. They called it Monocha. And some people said that is black magic. And people were so afraid. But something just come, whenever they go out in the night, suddenly some fireball come and hit on some people. Powerful black magic. But later, our studies found that it was just nothing but a phenomenon which is quite known in different parts of the world, known as ball lightning. That's a special kind of lightning. In marshy areas it appears. It's a charged, small bubble which is full of static electricity, and the ions are discharged when it hits an organic thing. So when it hits your face, or not only human face, but any animal or anything that moves and that's organic, it's simply attracted to that. It hits and it releases certain liquids which are burning the hitting part. So this, for example, nobody could understand that, but our team could study it and understand and explain it properly, and of course then the problem was over. But sometimes things are explainable. Here, what you see is a scene from Mumbai, one of the biggest cities in India, commercial capital. And here, some years back, suddenly the seawater turned sweet. Everything that is unnatural is a miracle in India. This happened very near to a Muslim mosque. Immediately, the person in charge of the mosque, he has announced that this is Allah ka karishma. It's a miracle of Allah. Seawater has turned sweet. And people simply started collecting this water. Thousands of people just came there to collect this water. So of course, since we are the people who explain these kind of things, the television reaches and I didn't have an answer. I only suggested that you should not drink this water because it could be anything dangerous. It could be industrial wastage. It could be a natural emissions coming out of the seabed. It could be anything. So we insisted that again. We requested authorities to stop people drinking this water till we know what it is. But nobody could stop them. Thousands and thousands of people collected this water. Many people started saying that ailments are getting cured. You drink this water and your pain is gone. People on the bed are walking now. A lot of strange stories started coming. But the next day, the chemical analysis reports came. It had coliform bacteria several million times more than human tolerance. You know the reason? There was a river coming very near to this seaside. So it is known as the Methi River. In earlier times, before knowing about the treatment of water properly, the city waste in small cities were all pushed to this river, which was going to the sea. It went to the off-sea. Many cities have now studied of treating water, but many places it's still continuing. And this dirty water from the toilets of small cities, which are collected at this river and pushed away in the sea, far from the main occupation areas, got some fresh water current and reached this coast. People got the dirty toilet water mixed up with seawater, and of course the saline water was pushed away with this new current, which was coming from the river. It was full of city toilet dirt. Now we know how it is. Many people said how it is. And there was diarrhea all around the city. But it continued for 2-3 days and nobody could stop them. The moment it's a miracle, there is faith connected with it and it works. Sometimes the authorities also cooperate with a lot of things. Here is a mantra healing center. This Times of India, one of the largest circulated English newspaper in the country. The front page news and the sitting person on the right is the Chief Minister of Delhi, the Delhi state, the capital city. And behind him is a holy man, appointed by the medical college, Maulana Azad Medical College, as the head of the department of mantra healing. Mantra is the magical word. Imagine a modern medical college supported by government has a special department for magical curing. And this was really shocking. And the Chief Minister himself went there and got this mantra curing by blessing by this guy. He said his pain is gone. He had a lot of arthritic pain. The Health Minister of Delhi was a physician himself. He was an ENT specialist. And he has inaugurated it. We tried very hard to educate people against this thing and mobilizing the whole media. We wrote articles and made meetings and press conferences and pressed that this should be stopped. You know what this holy man would claim? In every medical college, the professors are supposed to give free consultancy for the patients. There are a lot of people queuing to be consulted by him. And for every patient, he would listen their problem and he would write a mantra for them. And they should read the mantra and relax and they will be cured, is what he said. But if you cannot bring the patient, you can tell the symptoms, you listen everything and you write a mantra for the person. But of course, since the person is not there to be blessed by him, you can take this mantra on the piece of paper, fold it and chew it properly and swallow it. He said that would work. In a modern medical college. And our effort was very successful. because of the public opinion that we have raised, after 30 days, we could stop this thing. It was closed down. And we consider that as a great success. But 2 years later, when I went to the United States for the inauguration of the Center for Inquiry in Burbank, in Los Angeles, I read in a newspaper an advertisement of this guy. He's now practicing in the United States so successfully, claiming that he has been the head of the Department of Mantra Healing in one of the Indian medical colleges. And the visitors are not people of Indian origin, but the American population. All these gurus going from India get a lot of credence when they're supported by Western devotees. Most of their money comes from Western devotees. And their image is always taken up when they have disciples who are coming from the developed part of the world. So that's a serious problem that we are facing. Because I know, I mean, we all know that the Western population is not behind these people, but there are exceptions. There are some people going behind these kind of things. And they are shown by these people as examples that in developed scientific Western world, there is a great support for these people. This was the health minister of Delhi who has inaugurated the Mantra Healing Center. But not only mantra healing. Thought of drinking water, mainly seeing this guy, because he has not been drinking water for 70 years. That's what he claimed. His name is vapaa-ajattelu. He said some years back, he was not eating food or drinking water for 7 decades now. Imagine, sometime around after the outbreak of the Second World War, he stopped eating. After that, he is continuing without drinking water or eating food. We will not take such a thing serious. But, of course, in one of the medical colleges in Ahmedabad, he was verified. They said that 15 doctors are testing him. How he does it? And they said NASA is studying about him. And they are financed by NASA now. And we inquired at NASA. NASA said, we have no idea about this guy. Just a fake story. But the proposal was very simple. They said if astronauts are taught about this meditation technique of surviving without eating and drinking, it is going to be very, very economical. Because when you go up in satellites, you don't have to carry food and water. And most of the fuel is used to carry this weight. And one can laugh about it. But Indian Defence Research Institute took it damn serious. They thought differently. The Indian soldiers who are on the border of India in the high terrains in Siachen, food supply is a serious problem. They have to get food drops from by helicopters every day or every week. It's one of the most difficult tasks for the Indian Army. The Defence Research Institute thought maybe if this meditation can be taught to these people, no food supply is required. With this idea, Govindan Ilavadagan, the director of the Defence Institute of Research, has granted a huge amount of money to Dr. Sudhir V. Shah of this hospital, Sterling Hospital, for studying how this meditation is practiced and how he is surviving without food. Not if he survives or not, but how he is doing it. They wanted to see. We found that it was a fake, and we insisted that we should be part of this inquiry. We are not allowed But second time when it was done, we were technically allowed in a television program. I officially asked publicly that why I am not given an opportunity to be a part of this investigation. Came a telephone call from the Sterling Hospital. He's allowed, he can come. The next day we were going, on way we were told we are not allowed because the Defense Research Institute has some reservation. It's state secret, whatever is found there. But we found the real secret from the hospital reports, of course smuggled by some of the hospital workers. There was urine formation in his bladder even during these testing days. And after some time the urine has vanished. And of course we brought it publicly and said that why there should be urine formation in his bladder if he does not take water. They said he releases some fluids into his body and then it goes to the bladder, then he does not release it out. It's recycled into the body. How is it done? No one knows. It comes from a medical college professor. And of course, our further investigations found that every day he takes a shower, sitting in a bucket, and he gets another bucket of water, and in a large basin he sits and he pours water. But one can see he's opening mouth every 2 minutes and gulping water. This was released and we published it. Also we found that the blood glucose is going up and down. Of course he was eating some food, but secretly. The credence of the people who say that they're holy men are sometimes heightened up with the support of the kind of devotees they have. Here you see a holy man, namely Satya Sai Baba. He died last year. And on the right hand side of him, with the glass and folded hands, is a former Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He was a Prime Minister when this was happening. On the left hand side, with a half beard, is Chandrababu Naidu, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh state. Both of them are his devotees. Yes. Here is one person. He is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, a professor of aerospace engineering and the first Chancellor of Space, Science and Technology. He was the 11th President of India, and he was awarded Bharat Ratna, the highest civilian award possible, which means the gem of India. Only very few people got it. But he goes to Satya Sai Baba. When he contested the second time, we made a very powerful campaign with this statement. India, with this picture also, India deserves a more dignified and responsible president. There were many reasons that stopped him becoming the second time the president, and one was his campaign. So sometimes we found ourselves very convincing, but he has been in this special function, visiting Satya Sai Baba, and wrote a poetry. It was not good quality poetry, but the poetry had a very interesting content. He said, he's a space scientist, and he said that the earth is such a beautiful multicolored gem, a pearl, in the solar system. And the solar system is blessed with the presence of earth there. And the earth is blessed because Satya Sai Baba is born here. And that was the poetry this guy has written and presented to Sai Baba. When Satya Sai Baba died, his body is kept in a glass box there, and sitting with a blue turban is the present Indian Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He's not just a politician, he's an economist. He was the governor of India's Reserve Bank, the National Bank, and partly responsible for India's new liberalization. And a very responsible person otherwise. I don't think he is a devotee of Satya Sai Baba. He's a practicing Sikh religionist. And sitting left of him is Sonia Gandhi, Italian-born, wife of one of our former prime ministers, but the de facto power center in India. She is the president of the Congress party, the president of the ruling coalition, and she is Roman Catholic. But both of them are there apparently for political expediency. Because Satya Sai Baba looked like having enormous clout of supporters and also of money, and that they wanted to use it for their political use. And such things normally influence people. The publicly respected people, when they go to holy men like this, and that has an influence. Therefore, when such things happen, we very strongly criticize the political authorities. And we are allowed to do that. We have free speech. For example, during this event, I've been on live televisions telling that this is quite irresponsible. Because Satya Sai Baba is not only a holy man who made tricks on people, and all his major magical tricks are exposed by television cameras many times. But there were serious allegations against him. There were more than 200 registered complaints in newspapers from the victims of pedophilia. And Telegraph newspaper in London has published one whole Saturday issue with affidavits of people who were children of his devotees and who were raped by him or abused by him, and while after becoming adults they came out with this thing. Not only by Telegraph, Indian newspaper, Pioneer, front page such a story with so many victims' statements in that thing. The nationally respected India Today magazine made a cover story which went into several languages. Of course, Satya Sai Baba, if he found it unacceptable, he could have gone for a defamation case. He did not file a defamation case. No, police did take a case against him. Once in his bedroom, 4 boys were shot dead point blank. He got the dead bodies next day. Nobody is arrested. No case even. And how can, this is all discussed all over the country, even in the televisions and newspapers, how can a prime minister and the chief of the ruling party go there? Doesn't it look irresponsible? It is. But that's how it is happening in India. When he died, a report about his assets came out. He had an annual turnover of the combined budget of 3 states of India. He had his own aerodrome. He had his own railway station, post office, medical colleges, university, everything he had. And he had a huge trust to keep all his work going on. And he was the only trustee in that thing. The God, he called himself God because he wrote much earlier a very interesting statement. It said that I am the God, I created this universe. Many people believed it. And when he died in his bedroom, which was locked with a lot of electronic security system, which was broken and opened, and one finds that he was sleeping on a bed made of gold. Not gold plated, but solid gold. And under his bed, maybe for emergencies, he kept several tons of gold sheets. And the roof of his bedroom was studded with gold, was paneled with gold, and studded with very expensive diamonds and pearls. Gold. And he had in his almirahs several gunny bags full of currency notes. Why did he need all these things? Because he was God. And now the number of devotees have come down because he died last year, but every year there was a function, and last year I heard that it has come down to around 30% now. Mainly because one prediction went very wrong. Because he predicted that he would die on the 96th birthday of him. Could not make it. He died at the age of 84. A lot of different explanations were brought in. Maybe he was speaking on lunar calendar, but even that was not fitting. And somebody said that that's an African calendar because the only country that he visited in his life was Uganda, and that too for meeting his friend Idi Amin. Of course, he has centers everywhere in Europe now. But the belief in Satya Sai Baba's powers have gone down enormously now. But when people are alive, it's a very easy way to become a millionaire or billionaire. These are people. On the right side that you see is Baba Ramdev, and left you see is the hugging saint Amma. She was here in Finland some days back. And these are the two people who tried to fill the gap of Satya Sai Baba's absence. And Baba Ramdev makes a lot of magical remedies for your problems. He says that every part of your body has special powers, like in acupuncture, he has a special idea about things. He says that one has to hold his hands like this, or hold the hands like this for long hours, which would help you to improve your health. Or if you go in the metro in New Delhi in the morning, you see a lot of people rubbing their hands like this. Because he tells in television every day morning, if you rub your hands like this, you don't get old. That's a way to remain eternally young. Many people, after 35 years, start rubbing and rubbing. And he was, 10-15 years back, he was on a bicycle selling Ayurvedic products. Now he owns an island in Scotland for targeting the Western devotees for his magical cures. Everything he has a solution. He says that if one practices yoga and chew the fresh leaves of wheat, you will be protected from HIV infection. How irresponsible is such a statement? How irresponsible. It's not Book with Magical Remedies Act, but rather politicians attend his programs. On the left-hand side is Amma, the hugging saint. She is traveling all around the world, hugging a lot of people, maybe several million people she has hugged, meantime, she says. And she is now charged with misappropriation of donations from abroad. All her money is coming from abroad. Last year, donations were stopped. She made very strange claims, like when tsunami came, big waves came and killed thousands of people in India. Her website said that it did not come to the western coast of India, mainly because she saw it, a big wave coming. She was on the balcony of her house. She put her sari into the sea. It has flown and touched the wave, and it stopped. But nobody says that the tsunami happened from the eastern side in the sea. It was not on the western side. They collected a lot of money from all around the world. Now it is heard that most of this money is not reaching any victims. They are making institutions. A lot of complaint about all operation, including the way she runs a medical college, where people are asked to sign that they are getting the full salary, which is giving 20% of the money only. Because unlike here, salaries can be given by cash in India. They are asked to sign and given low money. And they have been protesting about that. And goons, professional goons, were beating them down. It's all there in televisions with pictures and visuals. But still, we have politicians and respected people supporting. This you have seen this picture. Next. To counter, that's the other side. We have a very powerful lobby that supports charlatans and fraudsters. We counter it, targeting the youngsters. A part of the government supports us. Science and Technology Ministry, the National Science Centre are all supporting us. This is at the National Science Centre of India. I have a workshop there. In 3 sessions, 300 students each, for 1 week each. They are trained to replicate all what the holy men would do. Holy men would keep fire in their hands. Children are taught how to do that. Or, next picture, to levitate. So children are educated how to do this thing, but it is not really a miracle. No holy man would do really a miracle, of course. It's all tricks behind it. Here what you see is very simple. Here, is the pointer here? Okay. it's okay. Here what you see is, the boy is actually not floating on the air, as seen. He sits in a special position, and when I say, go up, apparently he looks like going up, but what he does is he has two hockey sticks in his hand. He holds the hockey sticks and puts his head very cleverly to give an impression that he's floating. He's actually sitting, legs down, putting the head behind, and holding in his hand two hockey sticks. So, but this is done by one holy man very effectively, and he convinces a lot of people that he has a lot of powers. We are in television everywhere. I've been in at least 1,000 television programs. On an average, there are 200 or 250 television programs last 4 years. More, these all are different television programs. When Satya Sai Baba died, I made a live commentary about him. This is something you have seen before the program, my speech began. Sometimes television programs become very interesting, and this became a landmark in Indian television history. This was a very special program in 2008, when this holy man, namely Pandit Surendra Sharma, was invited along with me to discuss about the claims of one of our politicians, Uma Bharati, who was the chief minister of one of the states. She claimed that her political opponents are doing black magic on her. Why? She felt that she had a small car accident and her uncle died, and maybe there was a little eczema on her leg, all because her political opponents doing black magic. Funny it would look like, but the channel decided to make a discussion on that thing. And I was invited, and this man was invited, his name is Pandit Surendra Sharma, and the discussion began, and in a few minutes he made a statement that these kind of tricks work. There are special mantras to kill people. Special mantras so that people can have ailment. You can get a person ill if you make a small wheat dough and chant mantras on behalf of the person. What you have to get is a nail or a hair of the person and put on that thing. Or you have to touch the person once and chant the mantras, and it works. And it's a live television program, he speaks all these things. It looks impossible. I cannot argue with him to any level, because people would not be convinced, because he says that he has seen it working. He chanted mantra on an animal and it died. Now, on a person he once tried and he fainted, then he reversed him back. He said, I thought it's a hopeless argument, but suddenly an idea came to my mind. I said, come on, if you can do that thing, I would challenge, kill me right this moment. If you don't do that thing, I would call you a fraudster, a charlatan. Either you withdraw the statement that this is possible, or kill me this moment. I provoke him so thoroughly and so insistingly, and he got so furious and started chanting mantras to kill me. It was quite unexpected. I didn't think that's going to happen. I thought he would shy away, but he really started chanting mantras to kill me. It was a very special program of 30 minutes only, but when he started chanting mantras to kill me, the viewership has started climbing like anything. And the channel decided to stop the next program and continue the chanting with a special announcement at the bottom, breaking news. Will the rationalists die now? It continued. So he asked 10 minutes and sometimes 5 minutes more and 5 minutes more, and he tries a lot. Then he's getting tired, I realized. I cannot really speak much because he's chanting and chanting all the time. I made little humorous body movements so that people can find it interesting, to ridicule him also. And I insisted that there is no mantra power. But after 1 hour, when it was not functioning, he said, bring a knife. I didn't lose my humor. I said, but that's a conventional way of killing. Then the knife came and he started brandishing the knife in front of me and my neck and all, mainly to scare me. And he tried for nearly 30-40 minutes with this knife. Nothing works. Then he said, well, it doesn't work because he's protected by some other gods. Then, more powerful than whatever gods he's praying to kill me. I said, look, it's absurd. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in these kind of things. And then he said, he waited for a minute and then he said, okay, there is an ultimate ritual that can kill people so clearly. But that should happen only on Friday in front of, a burial place. It should be in a burial place. And the wood would be taken from the burial ground. And you need not be there. You can be killed from there also, but you have to give your hair or nail or something like that. Or you can be there. People can see how you are dying. I said, yes, you can try that. But he said, look, it's very serious. And you will simply die. It's not reversible. There will be 1 hour ritual, and in between there will be special 9 minutes. In the first 3 minutes, you would go crazy. Next 3 minutes, you go unconscious. Next 3 minutes, you die. Well, he was allowed to do this thing, and we have parted in the studio, and it should happen at 11 o'clock in the night. But this time I thought, things are getting a little dangerous, because first time it was done without he having much time for preparation, because it was unexpected. My reaction was unplanned. Right. Here he has 4 hours. He can think of poison or chloroform. Anything he can try, potassium cyanide, he can try and get to my lips, and if it mixes with saliva, I'm dying immediately. Or I talk with toxic experts, and they said there are poisons that may put on the skin, which has a content of phosphorus, which can burn your skin and kill you. Anyway, I made all preparations so that he does not touch me, or he doesn't bring his stuff closer to my nose or my mouth. Then the ultimate Tantra challenge, the ritual happens. They call it Mruti Homa, the ritual to kill a person. And the channel promoted it so heavily. They made an announcement, will the rationalists survive this night? Will the next day start with his death? Or will he survive the chanting of the mantra? They advertised it so heavily, every 10 minutes there was a pop-up in the television. It got enormously high viewership. I was told later that 58% of the Indian television viewers were watching this program, which included tens of millions of people were watching this program live. And he chanted mantra. I was sitting. Yeah, this was the ultimate ritual. And there are 4 or 5 people also along with him. They all chant mantras continuously, and he played with fire and all in front of me. And he asked me to touch the beach stove. Then he carefully, at one moment, insert a needle on the forehead so that I should get crazy. I just laughed. And he said, look, the way he's laughing, he's getting crazy. So I said, it's not like that. Let's see what would happen. And he continued with a lot of techniques, putting mustard in the fire, and I think what all different herbs which he was putting in the fire was creating a lot of sound and burst and a lot of smoke, multicolored structures. One is, and it's so very dark, and not much people around, and one would feel that this could really work. If one has a little bit fear in his mind, he would faint unconscious for sure. That kind of atmosphere he made. And there was a countdown which was going on, and at the end of it, he said, it doesn't work, he doesn't die. But what happened exactly? Some people asked him. He said, it did not work now, but it has affected him. He would die this night. Okay. I was a little careful. I stopped my car and I took another car to go home because I didn't want somebody trying to make an accident on me. And next day somebody asked me, some journalist. Then he said, in 3 days he would die. 3 days later also somebody followed up and asked him. some channel made a discussion about why it did not work with him. So some people had a very strange story. Some people said that he chanted the mantras with spelling mistakes. That's why the problem. Some people said that maybe he's not a really trained tantric. It could work with some other people. Some other people said that he's not a real person. He's just an actor brought by me. A lot of different claims came. But poor guy, his business is over. And 3 days later, again some channels asked him. He said he will die in 27 days. Now 4 years have passed. Someday anyway I will die. And if he's still there, he would perhaps claim that my powerful. And it gave, though I didn't plan at that time, gave a lot of public attention to our work against superstition. It was after this I got enormous invitations from television channels. Started getting almost every day I was on television. Every program was viewed so with a lot of interest. And even when I was in hiding before coming to Finland, from the hiding place, I've been reaching television channels to attend at least 20 television programs. Even now I do this thing through Skype. I'm active still on Indian television. But on the other side, as I normally tell, there are two Indias coexisting. It's not only superstition. There's a lot of social values which are not modern but very primitive. For example, if people marry from two different castes or religions, it's not taken very kindly. Many parts of India are liberated. The cities are totally liberated from these kind of things. But in villages, it's taken very, very serious by the family and the relatives. For example, village councils like this meet together. If a boy and girl decides to live together, if they like each other, and if it's against the caste laws, if they can live together or not, because you cannot marry from a different caste. If you are in the same caste, you cannot marry from the same gotra, subcaste. You should be from a different subcaste. A lot of strict controls are there. And if you break this thing, parents and family and community is so angry, and they can even decide to kill you. And normally the parents are asked to kill the kids. They're brought back normally, friendly with enticing that they will be accommodated back. And these kind of things are happening. So, like beheading, honor killing. A Muslim girl, honor killing for marrying a Hindu boy. That's one side. There were 200, we call it cup killing. The local panchayat or the community meeting, heads meeting is known as the cup. And there are even contemporary movies speaking about this topic. But other things also, like this is a child marriage. It's legally banned to marry before the age of 18. But it's a religious faith and ritual that kids at the age of 5 or 6 are married in the state, namely Rajasthan. She is a bride and the husband. Such marriages still happen. There are a lot of social behavior patterns which probably comes from very past and very, very strange historical reasons. But things are still existing despite the laws, despite the public education. And secretly it happens, and it's reported in the media also. So what's the counter antidote for this thing? We would say that education, equipping people to counter it by themselves. We cannot protect everybody. We have to equip people to do it themselves. We have to tell people to face their problems, and we have to give tools to them. We have to give legal support. We have to show them what are the methods. That's the only way to change India. And education has a big content in India. Telling, for example, girl kids are not liked by many parents. Why? Because there is a system named as a dowry system that's illegal but existing so powerfully. When the girl marries a guy, the girl's family has to give a huge amount of money and property to the guy to get rid of her. It's quite a lot of money. Many parents cannot really afford it. They would sell their entire properties to get rid of the girl. And if you don't bring the proper dowry, the boy's family can be very angry. They can even kill the girl because he should get another lady who would bring money. And the dowry deaths are a very serious issue in India. And there was a very special methods developed by people. For example, in post-mortem, if you're poisoned, if you're starved, if you're shot, salt sea. But it's found that if you put kerosene or petrol on the person and burn the person, it can be seen as an accident. There are bright burning in very large numbers happening in India. Now the laws are very stringent that if by any form, if a lady dies in the first 7 years, the husband has to prove that he has not killed her. And very strict laws that in the main moment a lady complains about a dowry pressure from the husband's family or her, immediately the people are arrested. And the burden of proving that it is not there is on the other side. Very strict laws. But still it's heard that it's a lot of dowry there. And because of the dowry system so powerful, in many places parents don't want girls. There is a lot of foeticide, not for family control, because they see that it's a girl coming and they stop it immediately. And there were complaints in some states, in rural areas, just born children were just killed if it was a girl. It's not stories to make things exotic. As a result, we have a very imbalanced proportion of male and female in India. In Haryana, for every 100 men, we have only 70 girls now. Marriageable age, the number is enormously different. In many states in India, it's now difficult to get a girl to marry. Because parents, last 2, 3, 4 decades, they stopped girls coming out. Now the outcome is so harsh that there are no girls. If somebody wants to have a girlfriend or a wife, in some states at least where this practice was very heavy, you have to go somewhere and import one. And there are cases that girls are imported from Nepal and Bangladesh, but they are not really married, they are second-class citizens. And the families don't accept them, and they are kept outside somewhere in a small outhouse or something like that. And this is now giving us big social toll. But that doesn't mean that the number of girls are coming up. There's a big campaign going on in the newspapers, in the media, everywhere, that the girl child is important. So it's promoted, and if you have a girl child, you get a special grant from the government in many states. But I would say that the Indian superstition is not only some miracles. There are a lot of social issues involved. Child marriage, the gender justice, that the role of the female look down, dowry system, or the families interfering into the life of the people. All these kind of things are so much important in India because it's a society which is medieval at one side and modern on the other side. It's a conflict between two Indias. We try to change India to the progress, to a modern developing world. Why it's very important, not only because it's my country, but it has a serious impact on the whole world, I always feel. Because India has 1.2 billion population, which is going to be double very soon. And with this population, India is still going to be a very big economic power. Next 20 years, perhaps we are going to be a very powerful nation economically. Even now, we have a middle class, which is a real buying power, and their number is larger than the whole American population. It's a very fast growing economy. 7% growth is normally simply imaginable, whereas the growth rate in many of European countries is less than 1%. It's very fast growing. But it is fast growing India with large amount of people with buying power and a large amount of people educated, and which has more influence later. If that India is controlled by charlatans and fraudsters and pranksters and holy men, that's going to have a big impact. Even now the export of holy men are at an alarming level. So we have to correct it at the root. To change India at the base. We are making a silent revolution in India. It's reaching everywhere. It's reaching out to the people through television, through road shows, through lectures, through university camps. It's going on very well. Some decades back, when we started this thing, it looked impossible. But newspapers like Washington Post has reported about our work, making it very clear that we are making a silent revolution in India. It's happening. It's changing. And we see that education of girls as a major campaign that we try to tell people that a girl child is important. So that's promoted. Also nationally, even the government is now officially promoting this thing. The reality of India, we have a lot of superstition, blind belief, dependence on rituals, karma, holy men, miracles, witchcraft, priesthood, caste conflict. That's India. This India has to go, and a real India has to emerge. A real India, we had a great tradition. One of the oldest traditions in the world of critical thinking. The whole of Upanishads, our ancient texts, are asking questions, making doubts, asking for critically examining everything. We had ancient scholars who are known as the Lokayatas, who justified welfare of people and denounced rituals and religious bigotry. That India is lost somewhere. So we are in an effort to get back that India, to be in hands with the developed world at one side, and a common fight is so important for India to not give up India to the hands of charlatans and bigots. That's what we are trying. Thank you.
Niin, onko kellään kysyttävää? Haluatteko esittää kysymyksiä Sanalille?
Thank you very much for this very, what I would say, shocking review of the reality in India. And I appreciate and honor very much the type of work you are doing. And it is obvious that it is a very essential mission to take. But I'm more interested actually in a more general aspect of the phenomena. And that is actually how is it possible that highly educated people, physicists, teachers, engineers, biologists, who have already adapted to rational thinking and who use in their work the means of rational operation, how is it possible that in their mind still can coexist so to speak different world of superstition, magic, disbelief, not disbelief, magic and rites and so on. And I'm very much surprised because if you think of the European development, if you think of medieval times, we have come from the same background. But it seems to me that India is very specific just in this ability of coexistence. Medieval times, as I call it, and modern science.
That's a very, very important aspect of Indian situation that you have pointed out, which we have been discussing quite a lot also. Because it's not only illiteracy or lack of education that makes people superstitious. On the other hand, we have studied that the people who follow very unbelievable level of superstitious structures, many of them are highly educated people. The followers of holy men are not uneducated people. The people who follow the tantrics are sometimes very highly educated people. Or scientists practicing astrology. Why this happens, in my feeling, most of these people are educated with science, but their education did not have a kind of scientific temper involved in that. Big difference in scientific approach and studying science as a profession. So the space scientist who otherwise depend on, he critically examine every side of his study, would just put a point close that on matters of faith, there is no skepticism. There is no critical inquiry. He just closes the faculties of his critical mind on that point. To break that thing, there are so many different ways, and that's one of the major problems that we face also. You cannot argue with these people. For example, I have once, if you see Guru Bastel, the program where our work in the villages have been, I've been telling that 18 months we have been on the streets. Channel 4 of Britain traveled with us for some months and made a documentary, namely Guru Busters. Here's a copy of it. And so this Guru Busters also shows how the other side is existing. Very powerful election commission of India at that time. He comes on that program and say that he is a postgraduate in physics. And when Satya Sai Baba has given him a ring from thin air, he finds that it is not contradictory with his knowledge of physics. He doesn't want to accept that. That's a kind of cognitive dissonance, I would say. It's a phenomenon that is, the more you defend your blind beliefs, the more energy and effort you have invested on that. Because a part of the society says that is absurd. And you insist on your belief, and you put a lot of energy on that, then you don't want to come out of it. Because the moment you come out of it, a part of your fundamental existence is gone. Or, in another example, if somebody says that the globe is going to end on a particular day, and the group that believes that the earth is going to end on that day would not leave that belief when the earth does not end. They would rather more aggressively defend their faith. Because they cannot accept the reality and they make a blockage. For example, when Tantra challenge was done in the television, did that break this cognitive dissonance of the people who actually practice Tantra? No, it would not. But I would be able to immunize a lot of people who would otherwise go to Tantra. Those people who are insane are very difficult to handle. So one methods to handle this thing is to bring in scientific temper in our education, which is lacking. Critical inquiry is in the constitution but not in our curriculum. And our village campaign has a very interesting impact on this method. For example, we found that when people are receptive, it's easy to communicate them. When they block their mind without knowing, it's very difficult. And when we have a very special program in the villages, one of our members would dress up like a guru and go to the village. And he would convince the whole village that he's a holy man, that he can do a lot of things. He lies on a nail bench, or he produces holy ash, or gaze at something and produce fire out of that thing. And he would ask people to give donations, and he would duplicate the money, or take a 100 rupee note and make it 2 pieces and give to him. So people are convinced. And then he asks everybody to bring money. People bring money. That's how the holy men are working. They can dupe people very easily. When everything is brought, money, gold and everything, then one of our trained boys or girls stand up and say that, but this is all fraud. What he does is not because he's a holy man, I can do the same thing, and she would start doing the same thing. There's a pandemonium, there's fear, because he would curse the girl. But the girl would insist and insist in a very strong voice. And the other part of your mind, which is critical, is hopeful at that moment. And at this moment, the guru, who is a trusted rationalist, takes away his wig. And there's suddenly a burst of laughter. And later, now it is written by experts that this is one of the best ways possible to break cognitive dissonance. Because if you reason out to people, if you argue with people, if you promote dialogue, that will only convince people with a receptive mind, an open mind. Or people who have not ultimately decided to one side. Otherwise, you have to make a sudden shake, which can break. You can laugh about your own absurdity without you noticing. This is sometimes done very effectively. But all the same, we have. Why people go to Satya Sai Baba, who just produce some holy ash or bring a necklace from this thin air? Don't your common sense and faculties not accept that is absurd? You don't want to see that thing. You want to identify with a special situation where you feel privileged. So that's the big dilemma that we have. How can we inculcate scientific temper into the mindset of the people? We need proper education for our scientists to develop their critical faculties on matters of faith. So this is a campaign which is going on so vehemently, but so much resisted also. So much resisted. So there are people arguing with very strange theories that this all would work. For example, a holy man like Maharishi Mahesh Yogi would tell people that I can get you levitate for global peace. And he would make huge charts and methods how the vibration that is created by your own levitation would change global peace. Convincing arguments people make. And that would justify those people who do not go into this stuff, but think that any kind of a chart or some formulas are all science. There are a lot of pseudoscience in circulation. And those people who do not come out are the hardest nuts to crack.
Excuse me if I make one suggestion. I'm not an expert in this field, but I see it as a phenomenon of addiction. And if you look at treatments, how you treat people who are addicted, then it is very important that you give them something instead of that what they get from the addiction. So if you want to, let's say, withdraw some kind of wealth which the people feel in this kind of superstition or magic or so, then you leave them empty. You must give them something instead. And you make a new offer. It's not enough, so to speak, just to disolve this, to show their dissolution or their what do I say? You should not only dismantle them.
I know this argument, which I've been hearing in the 1980s. This has been a big discussion in India. We have to give something instead.
Yes.
But the question we have been taking is, was superstition something that has been so fulfilling in you? And if we take away one superstition, should we give it with another superstition? Or should we promote people to develop critical faculties? So, we try to see it in a very different angle. You have tuberculosis. The virus is in you. Can we think, or should we think that, well, if the tuberculosis is taken out of you, instead what did you give? Typhoid? Or some other ailment? Or should we want him free from that? Is it so compelling that you need something, so some superstition, or some blind faith, or submission? But if it is meant, for example, there are a lot of things, in matters of religion we do a similar thing. Because sometimes religion is connected with a lot of colorful art, music sometimes. Because it has been growing with religion, because religion has been very powerful. So there we have a serious agenda on this matter. For example, many of Indian dance forms are simply praising the Hindu gods. our music is full of praising the gods, like classical music in Europe. So we don't tell people not to do this dance or not to listen music. That was an approach we had sometime back in the 60s. But now what we do is, we tell people, this music, this art, this tradition of culture is of others also. This has been taken and hijacked by a lot of people and made us as a religious thing. So we would like to liberate it and secularize it. So we don't want to leave this art and culture and music to religion, and when you come out of this thing, you don't get it. There we try to secularize this art and deform the whole structure in a more civilized way and try to give people. For example, but not also that also, for example, a dance form like Kathakali, one of the highly stylized classical dances in India. I've been personally studying Kathakali for several years and I know the whole structure. It's completely full of Hindu mythological stories. If you want to perform Kathakali or study Kathakali, you have to play as gods. There is no other way. The gods and demons are permanently in fight, and that's the story. And I have studied Kathakali with the same, like I have been performed as Krishna. But the difference that I have seen was, when I play Krishna, I would see him like a Greek mythological character. I would not see there is a god, I don't see a god in him. I would be able to perform it better because mythology is a great heritage and tradition which is so rich, it's taken out of divinity. Which is with divinity, it's absurd and binding. So we try to tell that mythology is beautiful, fairy tales are so interesting, Santa Claus is a fine story. But if you feel afraid of this thing and you want to submit your life to that thing and you live in permanent fear for that thing, that's absurd. So we try to tell that, I normally say that I like so many characters of Indian Hindu mythology, so interesting characters. So equally I like Greek mythological characters or Shakespeare's characters. That's how I try to see it. So what you say is very correct in matters of art, culture and music and other part of our cultural life. But superstition is very different than that. So we, for example, as a part of our agenda, we try to secularize most of these Indian art forms. Kathakali, for example, since I've been trained in Kathakali, I've directed Kathakali plays later. Othello, for example, of Shakespeare was made in Kathakali. Or Greek mythology, Sisha and Cupid was made in Kathakali. But even Kalevala's one famous story was brought in Kathakali. So we tried a lot of things to implement a kind of secularization of our art in the process. You are absolutely right that we should not leave them empty and we should take away culture from them. If culture is connected with religion, when they come out of religion, we cannot make an empty space there because people need culture, people need dance, they need music, they need enjoyment. That's another thing. But superstition is an ailment. Believing in the powers of a holy man, you cannot give there is an alternative. You can give alternatively the powers of a rationalist, which will be absurd, I would say. But this aspect is important. When you come out of religion, you need to not lose everything that culture has been bringing out along with religion. If possible, we try to de-link the culture with religion. We cleanse it out with the dirt of religion and make it as part of the whole society. But superstition and blind belief, I would generally de-link my work against superstition with my work, for example, to get people out of religion. These are two different things. In the fight against superstition, I would even welcome religionists to cooperate. That's a very special strategy that we have. For example, I say normally that if you are still in religion, I'm still willing to cooperate with you if you work against superstitions. Because it's a larger problem than religion in India. It's binding, it's killing, it's completely damaging. I would say that it's an ailment. One needs cure. And they should come out of fear. They should come with the belief that they can see their life with reality. That's a different process than getting people out of religion. That's also a part of our work. It's not only because, since I've been speaking only about superstition here, because getting people out of religion And people who are coming out of religion having a fulfilled life with art and culture and fulfillment is very important. And therefore, we never say, for example, that the religious texts should not be read. We rather tell them, read them as literature. Yeah.
Have your rationalist center ever met with violent aggression? Have you opened up their office? And do you have any reason to be worried for your rationalist colleagues?
No, we have never been attacked because we are likely people. Generally, that's my very. Many people think that we meet with a lot of very strange situations like this. And for example, when we have gone to villages, 1,000 villages, nowhere, not a single place we are attacked. Rather, we have a strategy not to antagonize people. That's not the style we take. We generally tell people that you and we are our people together. And if somebody is exploiting you, we would like to tell you what it is, and we want you to come out. That's a strategy that we make. And that strategy is generally working very well. Rationalist Center has never been attacked so far. I've been attacked only once in my life. That was an angry holy man throwing fire on me because he was exposed publicly. That was the only time. I mean, that's a personal attack on me. Otherwise, not from the faithful. But recently, I'm facing another problem. That's about this special thing which I've been trying to show you. This was a miracle because we have a lot of miracles everywhere. Especially Hindu holy men do a lot of miracles. Now the Christian and Muslim groups also started doing miracles to get more people. Here is a crucifix in Mumbai in last March, exactly 1 year back. This crucifix started releasing some water like this. And the local church immediately announced that this is a miracle. And they started distributing this collected water to people to drink. And like any other miracle, people started telling that water is curing them, ailments are going, and problems are solved, and financial crisis is suddenly solved. A lot of sudden claims came, and they said that this is a holy water. And our belief system has a connection with the water always. A lot of strange claims. I've been on a television program on 5th of March, sitting in Delhi. I commented on the Mumbai scene, and I said it's absurd, and common sense shows that it does not produce water, but there should be a water source somewhere. That's what I tried to explain. But the church representatives on the other side, they said that you insist on empirical evidences. You haven't studied it personally. How can you make a claim like that? I said, I need not study everything personally. That you can yourself see that. You should study it. But they insisted, and because of their insistence, I've gone there on 10th of March last year. I've gone there, and I made a little verification after reaching there. When I reached there, I found a very interesting thing. There's a prayer going on in front of this crucifix. The priest was with Bible and reading sentences from that. And then halfway he stopped, and the holy water was distributed to people. The water coming from the feet. People were taking it with palm. It was given on a spoon. They were all licking it. Brought to me also. I refused to take it, but I asked for a sample. They didn't give me a sample. But one of my friends got a sample. He sent for chemical analysis, and now we know what exactly it is. And after the prayer, I went and watched it closely and found that on the wall behind it, it was all wet. There was algae growing. And when the algae was growing, means the water presence was there for at least a week. And then behind, there was also water presence and algae. Then we looked and looked at different places and found that there was a toilet behind it. And it was having a water tank at the top, and there was a pipe going for the dirty water to go. And it followed the pipe. And it reached behind the statue somewhere, and it was going down. And it was covered. I opened it. It was dirty water blocked there. It was stinking so heavily. Water, it normally goes forward and down because of the gravitational pull. And if it cannot go further forward, it climbs through small pores upwards. That's known as capillary reaction. So I understood that the water block there has been climbing on the walls, and naturally it has climbed on the cement base of the statue also, and got entrapped into cross, and perhaps came out. I went back to the crucifix and found that there was a nail on the feet of it. Just behind the nail, it was connected to the cross and it was wet. And above the nail, it was not wet, it was just dry. It was not tears of Jesus coming from the eyes, but it was water went up with the capillary reaction, got entrapped in the cross, came through the nail and was dripping. They touched that and smelled. The same old smell which I found in the cloak water. So next picture. Yeah, the priest is there, sitting there, and the crowd was there, and they insisted me to explain it there, but I did not explain it there because I didn't want to provoke. I explained it with the charts and photographs and details, and so convincingly perhaps I've done. Because every day they had 1,000 people at least visiting, and next day there was not a single person collecting the holy water, because it was just toilet water, and nobody wanted the toilet water to be drunk as holy water. And there was a heated debate after this thing. They said 5 people in the television discussion, the church, for arguing with me. They defended the miracle in the first half. Then came the bishop in himself, and he said perhaps it may not be a miracle, it could have natural reasons, as he says. But you should understand that it was church which was responsible for scientific development in Europe. It's a very strange statement. One heard how church has stopped scientific development. So I made a sarcastic smile, and I said that I would invoke 2 witnesses from history to counter your argument. One would be Gerardo Bruno, whom you have burnt in a city square. Other would be Galileo Galilei, whom you have put in prison for 12 years because he said something which was not acceptable as per the Bible understanding. You know what the bishop said? He said, but Galileo at last has apologized. You have to apologize too. I said I would not. Because I am standing for facts, science and history. I am willing to be, I am open to be corrected with facts. If I am convinced of a fact, I would not apologize. And the bishop was so angry, and it was one of the landmark television program, because it has been making history after that, because the bishop insisted that I should be put in prison for insulting him. And they filed 17 cases against me next day at different police stations. But a very strange law. I even welcome them. If I'm wrong, you can go for a defamation case against me. They didn't file a defamation case. Rather, they went back and took an old law still in prevalence, a law of 1860. And the last person convicted was in 1958. This law was invoked. This law has a special provision. The court need not interfere in the beginning. The police officer, if he is convinced, can take a decision to arrest a person. The prosecution and judiciary comes in one hand. The police officer has unbridled rights to accept a petition and arrest a person, and that's known as cognizance. And if you are arrested, it's non-bailable. It's a very special law which should not exist at all, which is not used for a long time in India. It's a dormant law, basically. But this law still exists. And if one police officer can be convinced, anybody can be put in prison if this law is misused. It's an abuse of a law, basically. But these bishops who promoted people to file cases against me, put in complaints against me in 17 police stations, and 14 police officers rejected their application, their complaint. They said it's absurd, doesn't mean anything. But they could convince 3 police officers. So 3 cases were registered against me, and the case would not stand anywhere, because we come to a court of law later. I mean, to whatever I have said, nobody can convict me, because what I said are very simple things, which are even in the school textbooks, nothing more than that. But the miracle exposure is so simple that I explained And we have documentary evidence with the chemical analysis of this water that what was it. Rather, they should be punished, in my opinion, for distributing dirty water, telling that it's holy water. But the law goes its own way. One of the police officers is so insistent, and he was trying to get me arrested. And I had only one legal remedy, that's going for an anticipatory bail, a bail in anticipation of an arrest. I tried that thing. It was rejected in Delhi High Court and in Mumbai High Court on technical grounds. Nobody said that my application is wrong, but the Delhi High Court said go to Mumbai, because the battery of lawyers would come from Mumbai, the Catholic Church, and they would advise the prosecutor. Then in Mumbai they said that it's all by merit, it's all fine, but you go to a lower court, which means it's very clearly the church is very powerful and nobody wants to touch the case, and they are pushing the ball to other places. But once an anticipatory bail is rejected, police could simply arrest me any moment. So I have no legal remedy till it goes to a court of law. And the only way I could do is to avoid an arrest and go to a court for an anticipatory bail. If I'm arrested, I need not get a bail for a long time. It's a special law, very special law, which should not be used at all against anybody. It's with absolute malicious intent that they have used it. There's a lot of public opinion in India about this case. More than 300 articles appeared criticizing the church for abusing a law. And there are so many television programs arguing on my side for my right to educate people at one side, and also telling that it's my fundamental duty to do that. Some people came out that whatever I campaign is not acceptable for them, but I should have the full right to say that. Even the Catholic laity organization's chief came out in my support, the president of the Catholic laity organization. But the bishop seems to be very adamant. There have been an online petition by the British Rationalist Association, and 12,000 people signed in 2 weeks. And the first person signed was Richard Dawkins. And there are international articles in Wall Street Journal or in New York Times and Times, everywhere. There are articles and articles about this thing. But it simply remains with the police now. It's not in the court. So they really tried to stop me because it seemed that I was making real headway against their interests. And so I decided to go out of India for a while till I get an anticipatory bail. But when I was away in Finland, I talked to friends what can be done, and one of my friends, Pekka Elo, the president of Finnish Humanist Union, is an old friend. Other people also, in Britain and USA also, some other people wanted to help me to come out. But this was very fast and effective, and I could come out the next day after the anticipatory bail was rejected in Mumbai. And I thought I would be going back after my Poland lecture tour, which was planned earlier. But while in Poland, I heard police was already at my home. They got a metropolitan magistrate order to get me arrested. It's a very tricky case, and it's going to set a precedent in India. If they would be able to get me stop my work, it would set a precedent, and a lot of people will be afraid to come out like me, because we have really made a big headway. And the campaign is still going on everywhere in India. Though I wanted to quit the presidency of the organization since I am very long away from India, my organization has re-elected me as the president in absentia. I preside over the board meeting over Skype, and I still appear in televisions over the Skype. For interviews with CNN and BBC and all, I give through Skype only. So the fight is on and on. And if the precedent is set that I overcome this thing, that the tide is turned down, that's going to set another precedent that the fight for reason and common sense would survive. And that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to bring up international opinion about this subject. Also in India it's going on. So it's a fight, and very clear for me that one of the offers given by the Archbishop of India, that many people wrote it in public opinion, and some of the ministers tweeted in my favor. So the Archbishop said that the whole problem can be solved and he can go back to India and settle out the whole problem, provided he apologizes And they gave me an answer so clearly that there are some people in the world who have enormous integrity and who would not apologize if they are sure that what they said is correct, and they cannot be influenced by any kind of pressure, even if stakes and fire brought to them. I am one amongst them. They don't apologize. And there it ends. They don't bring it to a court of law. They want to get me somehow in. And now we try to pressurizing the Catholic Church to withdraw the case is not working really, because a lot of people have written to them and they think that they have done a very successful job. But now we are trying to write to the Prime Minister of India from everywhere to take an executive decision to stop this case. Before it comes to a court of law, government can stop that thing. And if that happens, we win on that point. But if it comes to a court of law also, it's fine for me. Because in the court, I'm very happy. I believe in the judicial system. And I'm very sure that with one witness, I can win the case. The witness would be the Archbishop of Mumbai. And I would have to ask him some questions and he would have to answer it. And anything that is spoken in the court of law is reported in the press. So that would be one of the best possibilities that I can have to educate people what they have done. So it's a very interesting case, and I'm so happy that the Finnish people and the Finnish society and the Finnish government supported me in this situation. And therefore, I'm here as your guest. And this fight for common sense and justice and reason should be successful. For that, I need all your moral support. Thank you very much.